It isn't every day that you find companies that are disrupting a multi-trillion-dollar industry and have an opportunity to 10x, 100x, maybe even more in value over the next 10 to 20 years. But I think that's exactly what we're seeing with HIMSS and HERS. And the company's strategy is really starting to play out. A recent acquisition to buy more lab testing and actually bring that in-house, make it more available outside of traditional labs, I think is a really important move and a step in the right direction. This is going to unlock even more growth for the company long term. So that's what I'm going to dig into today, is what this new acquisition means, how it folds into some of the deals that they've made over the past 12 months. My name is Travis Hoyam. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And if you want more from me, check out Asymmetric Investing. My newsletter is a link on the screen and a link in the show notes. HIMSS and HERS, one of the biggest holdings in that portfolio. So one that I'm definitely covering quite a bit in that market beating portfolio. I also want to thank this video sponsor, Fiscal.ai. This is Fiscal AI. This is the best tool that you've got available for researching stocks. You can see here everything that you need just on a surface level: price to earnings multiple, price to sales multiple, something I look at with HIMSS and HERS. You got a company that's growing 71% and trading for just an enterprise value to sales multiple of 4. That's a pretty good bargain for a company that could continue to grow for years to come. But the real differentiator for them, they've got all your SEC filings, all of your investor relations information, and key performance indicators. That's something I'm going to go through on this video. Talk about how subscribers and how much those subscribers are spending really drives this company long term. So if you're interested in Fiscal AI, go to fiscal.ai/ASYM. You have 15% off. Like I said, this is a tool that I use all the time. So if you're a serious investor, check that one out. Now I'm going to come back to the financials and how this is going to impact HIMSS and HERS long term. But I want to start with what this deal was. They are acquiring, this came out this morning as I'm recording, they're acquiring Your BioHealth, a pioneer behind advanced pain-free blood sampling technology. I'll show exactly what this looks like in just a second. But this is basically just a startup. But what they're trying to do is painless microneedle technology. This is something that has been worked on for a very long time. Hasn't really hit scale the way that you may think. I actually got the HIMSS and HERS labs a couple of weeks ago. That was just a traditional lab draw. So they stick a needle in your arm, and then they got these tubes that look very similar to this, filled up. I think it was 9 of those with the labs that I did. But what they're acquiring is basically a company that's got technology to do whole blood sampling and do it in an easier way than traditional labs. So developing technologies to simplify the process and expand when, where, and how blood samples can be collected, including beyond traditional clinic settings. That's really the key for HIMSS and HERS. This is about taking the sample, the blood sample that you do for their labs, and taking it out of the traditional lab ecosystem. And this isn't anything that's new for HIMSS and HERS. They actually acquired an at-home lab testing facility earlier in the year, in February. So they're ultimately going to be able to include affordable whole body testing for subscribers. Now, interestingly enough, they acquired Tribe Labs. That lab was called Tribe Labs. They actually had a device that you would stick on your arm, and then you hit a button, and it would actually collect the blood within that device. This is actually very similar. This is the Your Bio page, and there's not a ton of information on this page except for this image here, but this shows there's actually adhesive on the bottom of this right here, and then that's where the microneedles are. You press down this plunger, and then the blood collects in this sample collector right here. So now in theory, you have an attractive at-home solution for actually collecting these blood samples, maybe even a way that you can do it in a simpler way. I don't know if that's going to be at traditional labs, if this is going to be available at minute clinics or something like that, but the options for HIMSS and HERS really open up when they have this technology in-house. Now, the labs product that they introduced, this just came out in November. This was really interesting. Like I said, I actually got these labs done. I'll put a link to our long article that I did, which showed all the steps that you go through, everything that's involved on the application, and then what you get as part of your labs. You get things like your biological age, and you get where your biomarkers are for a ton of different biomarkers. I think mine was about 75, and I will get that done twice a year. But the idea here is to get this information and have it be much more democratized than it typically is when you're going to a doctor and then you're also going to a lab. And then that information doesn't live with you, it lives with the doctor. So that's really the theory for HIMSS and HERS, is they're taking insurance out of it and they're democratizing that information. So now that information is yours, you can analyze it. They can put their artificial intelligence tools and things like that and offer solutions where they make sense. For me, there wasn't really even anything that they were offering from a prescription standpoint. It was things like, I need to get more sleep. I need to eat a little bit better. Probably things I already knew, but in time, you're gonna be able to track those biomarkers and see how you could potentially improve your health. One of the ways they can maybe do that is they acquired a peptide facility again earlier this year. So 2 lab-related acquisitions, a peptide facility, and then you're moving into more verticals. So testosterone was launched. Perimenopause was launched earlier this year. We know longevity is coming, or peptide's going to play a role in that. All of this is part of HIMSS and HERS vertically integrating the pieces of the value chain where it makes the most sense. So labs make a lot of sense. They raised funds earlier this year to do artificial intelligence so you could actually have a conversation, gather all of the information in medical research, have that available with an AI. I think that makes a lot of sense on something like the HIMSS and HERS platform, where they could control the data. And then you have some of these solutions that are maybe a little bit more bleeding edge, things like peptides, things like compounded GLP-1s, and also products that make a lot of sense to be paying out of pocket. Maybe this isn't covered by insurance for most people. Andrew Dudum, the CEO of HIMSS and HERS, has actually said that, they don't want to deal with insurance because that just makes everything more complicated. It makes everything more expensive. That's one of the reasons they're able to offer some pretty compelling prices. So all of this is about attracting customers and be able to offer customers more solutions on the HIMSS and HERS app. That's the way to think about every one of these deals. And as you do that, as you're able to offer more solutions, you're able to attract more subscribers. That's this number in blue here. This is the number of subscribers on HIMSS and HERS. The big growth in 2024 was from when they introduced GLP-1s. So weight loss solutions came to the market. The slowdown over the past quarter or two has been because those GLP-1s went off shortage. Then you have to go to some of the more branded solutions. So it took a little bit of that supply out of the market for HIMSS and HERS. But I think this is still really the long-term story is if you're able to answer questions for more and more people, do that with a cost-effective and convenient solution. And it is far more convenient to do your labs through HIMSS and HERS than to go to a doctor's office and do it. Even if the cost was exactly the same, which it isn't, it's going to be significantly more expensive to go directly to the doctor to do that. Basically, what I paid for my HIMSS and HERS labs is about the same as we pay when you have to take the kids to the doctor. And no, not all of those are covered. There is cost associated with that. So what this is going to do is open up more verticals, open up more solutions. That's what's going to continue the revenue growth. I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain a 73% compound annual growth rate, but if you start to see this subscriber number continue to tick higher, the number that I always point to is if HIMSS and HERS gets to the point where they have 10 million subscribers on the platform. Right now it's about 2.2 million. So maybe 4x from here, that now the supply dynamic becomes really different from what it is today. The dynamic in the medical industry today, the reason the HIMSS and HERS is so disruptive is the industry is all about supply. So no individual doctor really has any control over what is a pharmacy going to carry? What is a pharmaceutical company going to research? How much are they going to charge for those products? The power does not belong on the demand side of the equation. So you as a customer, again, don't really have any negotiating power. If we get to the point where HIMSS and HERS has 10 million subscribers, 20 million subscribers, now suddenly they're in a position of power. Now a new treatment comes out, or maybe a new weight loss solution comes out, and they go, you know what? We have all of these different options that we can serve to our customers. What are you going to do to lower that price, to make it more accessible? This is something that's happened over and over again on the internet. Think about the difference between cable TV and streaming TV today. The power position in the market is companies like Netflix, 300 plus million subscribers. They're able to aggregate all that demand and then use that demand, that power, that revenue that they have to negotiate better deals with suppliers. That's why it's become really hard to become a movie studio or a TV studio today. Those businesses have really gone down the drain because they don't have the power that they used to. The same thing is going to happen in the medical industry. The power does not lie with the pharmaceutical companies anymore. It lies with the companies that are bringing solutions to market. That's where HIMSS and HERS is sitting. That's where having information coming in from labs, especially if those labs are able to be done at home, processed in a HIMSS and HERS facility, and then they can offer those solutions at scale. That's what's really disruptive about HIMSS and HERS. That's why I think this is a really interesting acquisition, not getting a ton of attention from the market. The stock was not really up or down at all in response to this deal. But I think this is the kind of deal that over a period of time, these acquisitions are going to compound, give HIMSS and HERS much more power in the market. And I love that they're probably doing this at a pretty cheap price. We don't know exactly what they paid for most of these companies. That means what they're spending is not all that sizable because there is limits on how big of an acquisition you can make and not disclose the price. So we'll maybe find out a little bit more on their next earnings report, but I think you're seeing the strategy play out with HIMSS and HERS. They're pulling together all these services to provide more solutions to customers as customers choose their platform. that's where they really gain power in the market. So love where they're heading. This is a long-term story. Like I said, I think this is a $1 trillion plus opportunity. Yes, that's more than a 100x from here. But I think HIMSS and HERS is the kind of company that can do it. But let me know what you think about HIMSS and HERS. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like I said, if you want more from me, I'll put a link to both the spotlight and then an article that I did about getting my labs done with HIMSS and HERS. Really easy process and really great information to get about your health. But hopefully that'll be helpful in understanding the company a little bit more. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you here next time.